Oh yes, this is a very rare and exclusive first edition of Nailbiters. That's right, I released a second edition. And actually, this is very rare. I believe this is the only one that's left that anybody could purchase. But today, I'm going to tell you all about how I released a second edition of my book. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm MK Williams. I'm an author and independent publisher. I love sharing all my insights about self-publishing with you. Before I get started on today's topic, don't forget to click subscribe below. That way you can be here every week as I release new videos on all things self-publishing and how to make a career out of being an author. Today we are going to be talking about second editions because I'm updating the back of my very first novel, Nailbiters. And that means technically I have a second edition. Woohoo! So this book is almost 5 years old now. It's about time for a second edition. There were a lot of reasons for it. I'm going to go into all the things that were changed and how I actually created a second edition. By the time you watch this video, the second edition will be out to the world. So I have done it. I have released it. Here it is. It looks the same, but not really. So I'm going to go into all those details. I'm going to go into why the changes were made, how they were done, and how this was done across different platforms. So when I originally published Nailbiters, I went through Smashwords and KDP as ebook only. I eventually added on StreetLib, Google, PayHip, and other platforms that I've used over time. I went back later and added a paperback version for print just through KDP Print. So that's the only other service provider that I use for the printing of this book. As of right now, eventually I will also get it out through Ingram Spark so it can be on other retailers. And once I finish the entire Project Collusion series, I will go through and probably do hardback editions for all of them. But for now, we're just talking about Nailbiters, which is the first book in this series. And I wanted to have the second edition out ahead of the Architect's announcement. So here is what is different between the two editions. So the front cover is exactly the same. This was done by an amazing graphic designer. I would not change a thing about this front cover. As you can tell with this one that I'm holding in the light, you can tell there's all these like fingerprints on it because this is the old one. This is the brand new one that just arrived yesterday. Super excited about. No fingerprints on it yet. So you can tell the front cover is the same. All right, what's different on the side is the spine. So when I first did this book, it was ebook only. So the file I had was for just an ebook. It wasn't a full wraparound for the paperback. I didn't add that until like 3 years later. So when I finally added it into KDP, I was like, you know what? I'm going to use their really awesome paperback cover generator where it just gives me really basic options for text. So this was the spine design for this book, which is not very appealing. And we know that when books are listed on a bookshelf, you want them to look more appealing. You want to have that nice spine. The front cover is great. The front cover is obviously what sells the most on this book, but the front didn't look great and the back was really old. Again, like I was still promoting an old URL that I've since updated to my new URL. I think there was like a typo in the description. I was figuring it out as I went. This was the first book I did for ebook. It was the first book I did for paperback. So this is the book that kind of got all the mistakes in it because I was learning by trial and error. And now I've been able to go back and fix them. So what's new is the spine on this one is much nicer. So it has the series name, it has the 1. So Architects will have the 2 hash marks because it's number 2 in the series. It has the title, it has my name, and it has my logo. I finally have a logo on my spine designs. So I'm probably going to go back and update that on all my covers. Now, just updating this logo is not enough to constitute a second edition for a cover change, but all the other changes I made do. And I updated the back as well. So the cover change was one reason for the ISBN change because it is material to change the entire spine in the back. I also added in the back an intro section that's like a preview for Architects. So the last couple pages of Nailbiters is actually the first few pages of Architects because I wanted that to be a preview for people. So if somebody buys this, they read it, they like it, hopefully they're getting hooked on the next book. So I did this in both the ebook version and this print version. So that's why it's a second edition. There is more content here. And I also went through and cleaned up some typos that had accumulated that I had found over the years. They were there all along. I just finally found them. So between the typo corrections, adding effectively a chapter to the back for the new book, and it all constituted a second edition. So that is why this is now the second edition of Nailbiters, which is very exciting. So the updates were made both on the print manuscript and the ebook manuscript. So this was a several week process that I had to plan out, right? I wanted this edition done and set before I announced anything about Architects, because I had to have everything in line. So if somebody's like, "Oh, Architects, exciting. I haven't read Nailbiters. Let me buy that one too now." I had to have it all set. So my plan of action, like I said, was laid out for several weeks. My first course of action was to actually send an email to KDP and to Smashwords to find out what the process would be, right? Really didn't want to mess this up, especially because I was releasing the second edition in conjunction with the sequel. So a lot riding on getting this right. So I sent an email to KDP. I actually have an image up here of exactly what it says, but in case that's really tiny for you to read, I said, "Hey, I am releasing a new edition of my book. Here's why it's a new edition. I'm adding a chapter to the back. I'm changing the cover ahead of a release of the sequel. Very exciting. What do I need to do to make sure I don't mess this up?" KDP wrote back, actually within a day, which was really helpful. They said, "We appreciate your understanding and publishing the sequel for one of your books with us. Yes, as you state, that you would like to add a chapter to the existing book, it needs to be published as a newer version of the book under a different ISBN. Confirmed." Exactly what my plan was. Glad that they confirmed it. "Once the new updated version is live, go ahead and unpublish the older existing version so that the older version will not be printed. Upon completing these steps, please reach out to us with the ASINs for both versions of the book. We will be able to have them linked." That's what I wanted. So as you'll see with Nailbiters, if you go to their page right now, you'll see I wasn't very good at marketing for reviews. A lot more people have read this book than I have reviews for it. If you would like to leave a review, please do so. But I still don't want to lose them. I worked really hard for them. They've taken a while to get there. So I didn't want to lose those. So that was one of the key things, is I wanted to make sure I knew that once I updated it, that these could be merged together and that I could take the old one down without erasing all that work. Again, I would love more reviews for Nailbiters. Please go ahead and leave a review. So I followed the exact directions that Amazon sent, and here's what happened. I added the ebook and print versions for the second edition after I assigned the new ISBNs. The ebook was live within 8 hours. Yay! The print book took until the next morning. Also, good. I then unpublished the first editions and sent a message to KDP support. In that message, I reiterated everything that I had in my first inquiry email, why I was adding the second edition, why it qualified for a new ISBN, that I was following directions from a previous KDP support message. Keep in mind, the same person is not going to answer all of your emails with KDP or Amazon. It's probably a large call center farm, so it's going to just route to the first person who gets it. So you always want to reiterate whatever you're doing. I saw that the second edition of the ebook was now linked to the audiobook with the reviews showing. Yay! Then I got an email back from KDP saying that they linked the editions and that the reviews would not be linked over. What? So I responded and thanked them for linking the books. I said I couldn't see it yet on my end, so I would check again the next day, and then asked why the reviews wouldn't be linked, because when I emailed a few weeks earlier, I was told that they would be. So again, not trying to be accusatory, not getting angry with anybody, just saying, I'm confused. This email says that you will. Why is that not happening? Again, try not to panic. Slight panic, but in general, I just, asked the question to figure out what needed to happen next. Well, it all worked out. All the versions are showing correctly with the reviews. I spent so much time just focused on writing the next book and marketing for sales and not reviews. That again, like I said, you can tell the reviews here are a little shabby. Please give it some love. But this I wanted to make sure was all set in place before Architects was launched. So I would say Amazon was the most stressful of all of them, just because I knew that there's such a big conglomerate. My request could get lost somewhere. I've heard more issues with those ones with Amazon than any other platform. So I'll run through really quickly how it worked with the other platforms, because it was nowhere near as involved. So for PayHip, super easy. Took the old version down, put the new version up. Done. For Smashwords, I reached out with the same explanation as Amazon, and they said just upload a new version. No need to create a new listing or remove the old. Perfect. Uploaded it with the new ISBN. The ISBN is up to date in there, so everything is good to go. Google Play, here I did have to create a new version. On the details page, I was able to list that the second edition replaced the first, And then I went back to the listing for the first edition and marked that it was replaced by the second edition. So that way Google now has a clear tracking of what's going on there. Once the second edition link was live, I deactivated the first edition. Within a day, the new version was up and active on the site. I never really got many reviews on Google Play for the book, mainly because I just didn't push for them. Again, of all the millions of things that I have to do in the day, marketing for reviews has fallen off. So sorry. Please leave Nailbiters some reviews on Google Play. So again, this is one of the times in self-publishing where there's lots of little details to manage. As you can tell, I was in communication with Amazon early and often to make sure this was going correctly. I knew very clearly what I needed to do for each format, both paperback and ebook, across platforms before I took any action, because I wanted to make sure this was done correctly. Again, for you as a self-publisher, this is your book. You have the ultimate control, but you also have the ultimate responsibility to make sure this is done correctly. So I want to make sure that you are empowered to release a second edition if you really feel like, you know what, that first edition wasn't my best shot, or I have a sequel coming out. I want to add that chapter at the end. What do I need to do? Or wow, I thought I could design a cover myself and I really can't. So I'm releasing it with a new cover. What do I need to do? So all of those things are very important. If you still have questions on this topic, please drop them in the comments below. I'll do my best to get back to you right away. I really want to make sure that you have clarity on what needs to happen for your book. I'll try to, again, answer as specific to your situation as I can, but a lot of my recommendation is going to be reaching out to Amazon, reaching out to your platforms just to double check that everything is set correctly. If you found this video helpful or informative, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to click the subscribe button below. That lets YouTube know that you're getting value from these videos so that they can get these videos in front of other authors like us. And now you can get back to writing your book.